Welcome to the Genesis of the Doctor podcast, where we're taking a journey through the time and space of the history of Doctor Who. I'm Joy.
And I'm Tris.
And for today's episode, we're focusing on the 7th and 8th serials of Season 3, which are the Celestial Toymaker and the Gunfighters. My basic thoughts are that I was expecting to like the Toymaker, and I had heard that the Gunfighters was one of the most hated episodes of Doctor Who ever, and I kind of came away with the opposite opinion on the two of them.
Yeah, I actually kind of feel the same.
The Toymaker was pretty boring, I gotta be honest.
Yeah, what happened for the Toymaker? I have written in my notes, did William Hartnell just go on vacation in the middle or not want to be that involved? Because they really worked to keep him out of the spotlight in that story. I mean, it could have been from the higher-ups not liking to work with Hartnell, as you were mentioning, but I don't know what happened here, but it really felt like they were trying to make sure he was in it as little as possible. Yeah,
I'm not sure exactly why it was. It might just be that like his health is declining at this point, so
maybe
he just needed 2 weeks off, I guess. But
I guess. But
it's very weird how he just disappears for 2 episodes, and they try to pretend like he's there.
Yeah, it's pretty apparent. You got that floating hand for like 3 episodes.
And it's just some other person's hand, and they just put the ring on the person when they were filming. And it's like, that's how you know it's a doctor, because he's wearing the ring, even though it's not the right hand.
Oh, God. That's right. There was also a couple moments. There's like a couple moments, especially in I think in the final episode that's the actual surviving one. Or maybe just in the anime. There's a couple moments where like the hand is kind of just like neatly like sitting at the table. Or at, like, a chair in the distance.
Yeah.
Kind of just sitting there waiting. It's like, aren't you supposed to be playing the game?
Well, he's trying to stall, I guess, is what he's doing. But that makes the Toymaker upset with him. Trying to give Steven and Dodo time to win their games, I guess.
But I mean, like, he keeps getting punished for stalling, but I guess after, like, 3 attempts, it's like, oh, well, I can't punish you any further. You're already intangible except your hand, and you already can't speak. I guess I can't do anything else.
And yeah, the original plan, John Wiles wanted to use this as an excuse to recast the role. You may have heard about that, but his idea was when he became visible again, he would just not be William Hartnell anymore. But that was vetoed. And then John Wiles left, and the new production team didn't want to do that anyways.
Yeah. That would have been a really disappointing regeneration.
Yeah. And I think it's better that like they actually came up with like the Doctor can just regenerate and not like you have to bring a god in to recast the role.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if it would have lasted as well if it was just like that.
And every season finale, we've got the next god to force the Doctor to change bodies.
Yep.
Oh, God. Although, funny enough, we did eventually have the Toymaker making the Doctor regenerate. You know,
yep, that is true.
60 years later.
And I found it funny, too, how there's mind-controlled TV sets in this.
Yeah.
Which kind of came back in the giggle.
Good to know 60 years later he's up to his old tricks yet again. So,
yeah,
a couple other thoughts before we start getting into like some of the specifics. I was curious, what did you think of the 3D animation? Because this is like one of the first times we were up to like a really like fully recreated episode that isn't with like flash animation.
Yeah. I personally, I feel like this story was made better by the animation.
Yeah.
I would say, because like they did so much more with it. Where, like, if you watch like the image reconstructions of them, like the sets were terrible.
Yeah,
and they made it so much better.
They really did help, like especially for that first one with the clown and like how the obstacle course is meant to kind of like boggle your mind. They did a much better job conveying that in the 3D animation, I think.
And I liked what they did with all the dolls, where like they're actually dolls and playing cards and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot better than just people in costumes.
Yeah, I have written in here, like, I actually really liked the character design of, like, the playing cards. I think those were actually, like, really cool. I know they're just costumes in the main thing, but I think making them stylized, like, they look like, you know, like living toys, that's actually a really cool idea.
Yeah, I was looking at, like, I watched, like, the recreations that are also on the Blu-ray, and
Right.
I did actually like the costumes they used for the playing cards because like they actually looked pretty good.
They did.
But yeah, it's a lot better when like they actually look like they're like folded up playing cards and stuff, and gets the idea across a lot better.
Yeah, it definitely got the idea across better. I really like. I have in my notes here just like the big thing I need to talk about though. Oh my god, I don't get Dodo's character.
Yeah,
Like,
she was kind of weird.
like all throughout, I understand like mistakes made as a kid, but we don't really get that on her. And also the fact that her role in this feels like someone that's been traveling with the Doctor for 2 seasons, not, like Vicky, not someone who's on their second trip in the TARDIS.
Yeah, and she just continually wanted to play nice with her competitors, and it's like, I mean, I get it, but you can't afford to do that now.
I thought they were going to build up to the fact that none of the other playthings here were just playthings. They were all other people, other victims. And because they kept hinting at that and talking about it a bit and how, oh, well, if they win, they get their freedom. But they never actually made that apparent to Dodo and Steven. And I thought that would have made for a really interesting moment from Steven after everything they've gone through.
Yeah.
About how, like, much that tears him up to have to do that. But no, we didn't get anything with that for some reason. And I feel like I'm not as compelled by Dodo's presence here because it's her second serial. This would have been far more compelling with any of the previous companions that had been there for longer. Namely, Vicky, I think, because a lot of this comes down to trust between Steven and the other companion, in this case Dodo, to actually work together to win these games. And I feel like it's less interesting telling us how much these two trust each other when they've had one adventure together, as opposed to, like, Vicky, who is basically like a little sister to Steven.
Yeah.
So that's kind of disappointing, but...
Yeah, I feel like we don't really have a good sense of, like, who Dodo's supposed to be as a character.
No.
Which is pretty bad because she's leaving in 2 more stories. So.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned
like, we're not...
like this was written with not Dodo in mind, so she's a bit stupider here. She doesn't understand things as much, and oh god, I really didn't expect it to show in the way it did. Like being kind to the other competitors, that didn't bother me that much. It was the fact that it didn't, lead to a bigger reveal bothered me. What did bother me was how after everything with the chairs, she just goes, huh, and just sits in the chair like to go to think, like instinctively. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Like, I understand, like, absent-mindedly going to sit down, but with the context of everything else going on, surely you would catch yourself and not do that. If even, like, King Henry didn't end up doing it, what does it say that you make Dodo do it? Like, what does that say about her? I don't like that they did that at all.
Yeah. I kind of got the sense, like, maybe it's supposed to be, like, she's like, well, if it's not this chair, we lose, so I'm just going to try it. But they don't really fully establish that, so it's like, it might just be she just sat down.
Yeah, it looks like she sits down just to think.
Yeah.
I also couldn't quite tell how she got out of that. Like, did Steven pull her out?
Yeah, I think that's what happened, is he just kind of pulls her to get her out of there.
All right. Yeah, there's a lot of questionable things. Even in the animation, there's some questionable things. Like, I do think the animation was pretty good, but I don't know. I still come out of the story with, I think, more questions than answers. Even though this is, finally getting to see the Toymaker for the first time and see the kind of legacy that he has now, looking back on it. It was not the story I expected it to be, honestly.
Yeah, and I think the thing that really stuck out to me is, like, it's just like Steven and Dodo play a game, then we cut to the Toymaker taunting the Doctor.
Yep.
And then he starts a new game, and then we do that again, and we do it again, and again, and we do it like 5 times, and then it's just, oh yeah, this is just the one where the actual TARDIS is there. It's not like, they're not building up to anything, it's just, you just have to keep winning games, and it's like, there's not much to this story.
Yeah, it was pretty basic in terms of plot. Like, there really wasn't too much going on. I
Yeah.
mean, the idea behind it all could make for a fun escape room, like a Doctor Who themed escape room. Just go through like the 5 different rooms, find the TARDIS at the end. That'd be like the Toymaker's escape room. That sounds like a fun event for people to do where they recreate these. But at the same time, there really wasn't much plot going on. Like, it implies that there's more, but it doesn't actually do more. Like, the Doctor already knows who the Toymaker is. The Toymaker knows the Doctor and Steven and Dodo, which I guess as a godly being, anyone that steps to the domain, he knows a bunch about them. But he treats it more like there's a legacy to them just as much as there's a legacy to him. And I feel like with Dodo, that's kind of silly. We learn more about Dodo in one scene when she goes, "Hey, that's when my mother died." It's like, wait, we know more about you now than we did in every other episode with you so far.
Yeah.
And only from one line.
So speaking of escape rooms, there was, I don't know if you watched like the special features, but there was an escape room where Peter Purvis and Maureen O'Brien did it, along with I think it was like the voice actress for a Big Finish character.
Oh, that's fun.
And I think that was kind of the best part of this Blu-ray set, to be honest, because it's very funny to watch them losing their minds as they're doing it. And I found it funny how there's a scene where they have to like pick out like all of the Doctor's companions from Classic Who and put them in order.
Oh,
and then
no.
Peter Purvis, well, they got like a book that told them the order, so that it was easier. But the funny part was Peter Purvis knew every single actor's name. He called them all by the actor's name, not the characters, which I found very funny.
That is actually really funny. I didn't get a chance to check out the special features yet, but that's actually like hilarious that they did do the escape room thing. Like it's a very like obvious idea with this kind of story, right? Like that's basically what they're going through.
They had a Trilogic game puzzle in there, and it was funny because they walk in the room and Peter Purvis is like, "That's the Trilogic game. I know what that is." I mean, the reason why he knew that was because he was given the prop for the Trilogic game after they filmed this.
Oh, that's fun.
But there's a funny story there where after he got off of Doctor Who, he didn't get a job for, I think, like 18 months. Oh. And he decided it was because the Trilogic game was bad luck, so he threw it away, and the day after, he got a call for a job.
Oh my God.
It was bad luck for him. Very funny story there.
That makes quite the impact on someone, honestly. You know, I did want to ask though, like is the Trilogic game like theoretically like actually playable? Because like I actually wrote down, I'm really glad they like explained the rules to it and like how to play it, because I really thought they were just gonna say the Trilogic game and then like you randomly see the Doctor playing in here and there, but gives no explanation. No, they actually like explain the ins and out of it. I was quite surprised.
Yeah, it's based on, there is like a real game that is similar, but they don't normally go up to 10 pieces.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is like a real game. You'll typically find like 5 pieces instead, because it takes a lot less time to do it. Yeah. Instead of 1,023 moves, it's like a quarter of that or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is based on a real game, and it's just, you can theoretically make that game go infinitely if you want to.
Just by adding more on top of it.
Yeah.
Huh. That's actually really interesting. Like, from how well they explained it, I figured, but...
Yeah, I also watched the commentary track, which they had for this. There were some fun tidbits in there. Like, Peter Purvis was asked about, like, you know, how did you feel about working with John Wiles? And, well, he said that, like, literally nobody liked working with him. Which is very funny.
Wow, that is actually pretty funny.
He also explained that he's not a big fan of science fiction, which explains why he always preferred, like, the Mythmakers and the Massacre. Because he just doesn't like sci-fi. And he also, like, he said that, like, most actors also like getting to be, like, the lead of a story. And so that's why he likes those stories, because he gets to do a lot in them.
Yeah, they do put him in the lead in those, and you know, give him a lot to do. So that makes perfect sense.
He also explained that in the budget, they only could ever do 3 edits per episode.
Right.
And, like, the TARDIS dematerialization and stuff is an edit, so that's why, like, people are always flubbing over the lines and all that stuff, and you literally don't have the budget to do anything with it.
Man, I remember from the Adventure in Time and Space, like, dramatized documentary of like Doctor Who, they also had the whole thing of like, these episodes can only have like 3 edits each, so we got to make it count.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. It was still in place then.
And then another tidbit from that was that the animator comes in for episode 4, and he said that coincidentally they did not talk to the team that made the giggle at all, but it's just kind of funny how they both had the exact same idea of just having him teleport around all the place, and he grows big a couple times. Like, both teams just had those ideas, and they're in both of them, even though they did not talk about it at all. So it was very funny how that worked out.
It's definitely a way to help him seem like godly and like terrifying in terms of his power, but that worked out very well for them.
Yeah.
Although they kind of had that happening in the surviving episode too, though. Like, we see he's on the TV and then he teleports next to Steven, where Steven tries to punch him.
Yeah.
So I guess there was already precedent for him being able to teleport a little bit that they just built off of for the rest of it.
Yeah.
So, which of the games did you like best? Either to either to watch them play or think, oh, that would be fun. Whichever way you look at it.
I mean, I think like the chair one would have been more interesting if it was more based around like the riddle itself, but they just kind of skipped over like the clue from the riddle. I think the hopscotch was kind of the most interesting one to watch at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the TARDIS hopscotch. I thought that, like, as a game, that's probably like the most entertaining.
Yeah,
because like that's like a full game you can like actively do and recreate.
Yeah. Also, Cyril has a very terrible death there. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah.
You see his corpse and everything. Even in the surviving episode, they had like a doll corpse that was like burnt on the ground.
Yeah, that was actually quite a lot that they did there. I was surprised what they showed. Gotta be real, it shouldn't have been humorous, but it was in the way they handled it. I mean, they kept making him like the man-child that's like really silly. So his antics like were just like stupid funny.
Yeah. I did also find it a bit funny how, like, in the giggle, the Toymaker says that, like, we're completely bound by the rules of the game and we're not allowed to cheat.
Yeah, I have that in my notes here.
All of the people working for him in this story cheated at every single game.
But I think the key point... So, because I was thinking about this, like, while waiting to record this, right? And I was thinking, I think the main thing is we don't see the Toymaker himself play a single game in this serial, whereas in the 60th, he is the one playing the games. So I think it's different when someone's playing, representing him, so to say, or like, one of his underlings is playing because they're not, it's not him himself playing. He's not doing it. He set the rules, but he also tells them to win however you can. He doesn't use the word say cheat, and they're technically working within the rules because the rules don't say not to do these things.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just kind of weird, I feel. Because you would think he would punish people for cheating.
Yeah.
If he was that offended, but no, not really.
It should be a more equal thing, but...
He was more upset that they lost and not that they cheated.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it kind of depended on the game, because some of the games I kind of feel like there wasn't really a way to cheat. Whereas some of them, like the chair one, you can't really cheat the chair one. But all the other ones, like the obstacle course and the TARDIS hopscotch, yes, it was very easy to cheat those. For some reason, like thankfully, in the first one, the obstacle course, it was calling them out on the cheating that was their undoing, because then they had to do it normally and they couldn't.
Yeah.
Whereas in the TARDIS hopscotch, there literally was just constant cheating. And sure, I guess it didn't go anywhere. I have noted, too, from the very first set of them, the idea of when they were first called out for cheating, just for like messing around with it. And it was, we're not cheating, it's variations on the rules. And it makes me wonder how that fits the Toymaker's ideal that we know nowadays. Like, what is that line of cheating versus tampering and messing with it, but still staying within the rules kind of thing?
Yeah. Also, there was the reason why the sets on this were so bad was because apparently John Wiles intentionally overspent on the arc out of spite, so they had
Wow.
like no money for this.
Wow.
So that they also had to reuse costumes. So the costume that Toymaker is wearing is actually the costume that Marco Polo was wearing in like the final episode of Marco Polo.
Okay.
Like when they do like the sword fight, I think that's when he was wearing that costume. So they had to reuse that.
That's why. Okay. Well then. That's
Yeah.
Oh man. Like for the games, I also think the Heart of Hopscotch was probably like the best game out of all these. I do have in my notes, I do think the finding the key, the literal escape room in the kitchen into the dance was very strange. That section was like very weird to me. I guess the way they got out of the dance one was trading dance partners enough times until it was them together, so they had more control, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what the intention was.
Okay. I also have literally all caps in my notes here. Why is this kitchen boy just passed out? And why does he just disappear? What is his purpose?
Yeah, that part was definitely weird. I guess it was just a hint at have them realize like, wait, he looks like the other guy.
I guess.
I guess. I don't know. It's also like, in the kitchen section, like the other two aren't even trying to stop them. They're kind of helping them, which just it doesn't make much sense there.
Yeah.
Because they're still supposed to be minions of the Toymaker trying to stop them, but they just don't there. I don't know. It's confusing.
I guess they were told to interfere with them, get in their way, but not outright to stop them, which is why later on it's like, okay, now it's beat them at the game.
Yeah. I will say that apparently this serial was rewritten multiple times over, so it's like, it kind of makes sense that it kind of didn't work out that well, because first you had the writer who did it, and then Donald Tosh, who was the previous story editor, did a lot of edits, and for some reason he decided to include two characters from a play that they didn't have the rights to. The reason why he did it was because, like, the guy that wrote that play was working at the BBC, so it was like, hey, boss, we included your characters in this. And then, well, guess what? He didn't approve of them using those characters.
Well,
so then the new script editor had to come in and completely remove those two characters from the whole entire story. So
amazing.
It became a mess.
Yeah, a mess describes it pretty well.
And I think they were basically going to be like the roles that were like the king and the queen, and then like the toy soldier and the cook. Like they were going to be like characters from a play.
Okay.
And then they just rewrote them into toys. So it became a mess at the end there.
Yeah, I can see. I can see how they kind of turned into those. Okay.
Also, according to Donald Tosh, the intention was that the Toymaker was actually going to be of the Doctor's species, which is very quickly became not what they were going for. Like in expanded material and stuff, they started to establish that he was a god of some kind.
Yeah.
But yeah, Donald Tosh's intention was he's of the Doctor's species, like the monk is.
Interesting. So another Time Lord, which I feel like with his powers, that doesn't really work because it would imply the Doctor should have some level of powers like that.
Yeah.
But it would have been interesting to go that route to then see just what kind of abilities Time Lords could have, because they would have had to really establish something with that as they went on, if that was the route they went.
Yeah.
What did you think of how the Doctor won in the end? Because I can't say I expected that for like how he won against the Toymaker with the way it was like really built up in the 60th. I really thought like the game he beat him at would have been like some other like small like a quick like chess match or something, like not the Trilogic game final move. I thought there was gonna be one final game specifically between the two of them actually playing.
Yeah, I don't like it's kind of a clever way for him to do it, but it was. I think like the whole Trilogic game thing just confuses me because it's like you're not really playing a game with the Toymaker. You're just doing a single player game, and he's just watching you do it.
Yeah, you're playing a game he set up. That's it.
And like he's watching you do it while he decided to make you invisible. So like I don't understand how the Toymaker even found that fun at all. Like he's doing this because he wants to play with the Doctor, because the Doctor is his only good opponent, and then he's watching him do a single player game where he's just a floating hand. And
that he knows how to do himself, mind you. So it's not like, help me solve this Rubik's Cube, I can't do it kind of situation. It's literally like, I know how to do this, but are you good enough to do this? It's like, well, is that fun for you? Like, I know they had that exchange of the Doctor going, you need me, and he just goes, yes, I'm bored. Like, okay, that was funny, but like, did this really satisfy your boredom?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he should just get a Twitch account and just watch people play puzzle games, and he'll be happy. That's how you defeat the Toymaker next time he comes back. Just introduce him to Twitch and YouTube, and he'll be satisfied for eternity.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm kind of glad we've come back to the idea of the Toymaker since, and kind of established a bit more with him, because I gotta be real, yeah, like we were saying coming into this, I was expecting to like this a lot more, and the most I liked out of this was it was kind of fun watching Dodo and Steven work out a bunch of the games, but that's kind of it. I really expected a much bigger like adversary to the Doctor here, and we didn't get that.
I think it's a very good concept, so it makes sense that they came back and redid it later on.
Yep.
But yeah, the execution is not very good.
Yeah.
And then the Toymaker was originally going to return in the Sixth Doctor's time, and then for complicated reasons, they had to rewrite that entire season, so he didn't show up in the end.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that is now a Big Finish audio story, so
nice.
That is out there as well.
So they went back to it in the end.
Yeah, because Big Finish has a whole line of just like, they take old scripts that were never actually turned into episodes and they just do those. So they did. I think they started with that one because everybody was like, we like the Toymaker. And so they decided to do that.
Interesting.
And also, the actor playing him is Michael Goff, who will go on to be Alfred Pennyworth in the 1989 Batman movie.
Yeah.
That's the only place I know him from, but I love those movies.
That's fair.
I think he was a big theater actor at the time, I think. And then, yeah. These are, like, this role and Alfred Pennyworth are basically his biggest two roles that people know him from.
That makes sense.
He was going to return if they did it, like the Toymaker for the Sixth Doctor. I think he was supposed to return for that, but
that
then he passed away. He passed away before Big Finish got away. Before Big Finish got to it. So they had to recast it there.
Unfortunately, that makes sense. Would have been. I'm sure he would have enjoyed coming back for that too, but shame.
Yeah.
I have in my notes here though, the very, very end, and if we need to come back to talking more about it, we can. But I just want to make sure this gets said before I forget. This might be the worst cliffhanger into a new serial we've ever had. The Doctor starts choking on candy.
Yeah. I think the intention is probably supposed to be that, like, well, this was like Cyril's third trick. So it's probably like fake candy or something that's supposed to break your tooth or something like that. But
probably. Yeah,
it's a very funny ending there.
It's very clearly meant to be a trap. Dodo even says it, and the Doctor's like, oh, nonsense, and he just happily goes to have it, and then, like, yells and collapses into Steven, and then it's cliffhanger. And that's might be the worst cliffhanger we've kind of had yet, to be honest.
Yeah. I also have in my notes that it's funny that this time, when they leave the Toymaker's realm, all they get are fake candies, and next time they get a whole TARDIS out of it.
That's true. The TARDIS. I do actually have that. Seeing how the Toymaker literally cloned the TARDIS for fakes, of course, but literally had a bunch of like fakes of the TARDIS here. I was like, I guess that makes like for reasonable explanation for how the Doctor was able to clone it later on, because the Toymaker kind of already proved to a degree he can already do that. So
yeah, it is a bit funny though in the giggle. The 14th Doctor says like a TARDIS is a thing that Toymaker would throw away because he doesn't want it, and then in this story, I mean, he kind of wants to leave in the TARDIS with the Doctor.
Yeah.
Or he kind of wants the TARDIS.
He wants the TARDIS as a toy. Yeah.
I did also find it very weird how, like, he's saying, like, I need the Doctor to stay here with me because you're the only person that will entertain me. And then in the end, it's like, well, if the Doctor wins this one game, I'm going to kill him. It's like,
it's gone back and forth.
But you want him to stay there. I don't know. Yeah. I think it was a bit of a mess, this story. But
yeah,
the animation made it better. And then it's nice that they brought him back and did more with the character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Overall, a weaker story than I was expecting and hoping for, but it was still a fun watch, at least. And I do think the animated version is actually rather good. Like, it's definitely a good recreation.
The human faces are a little uncanny at times, but luckily half the characters are toys, so those look a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's not terribly uncanny, it's just a little weird at times.
It's notably uncanny.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I guess if we're done talking about that, funnily enough, the episode about the Toymaker is followed by a musical episode, which weirded me out, and I guess that's where Russell T. Davies got the idea.
I guess so, yeah.
And in the Gunfighters, I had heard about the scene of Steven singing. I hadn't heard about the fact that there's just a song across the entire story, which is kind of funny there.
I actually have my notes. I actually kind of liked that. It was different and interesting.
Yeah. And
it was like a neat way of summarizing what had happened or what was happening.
Yeah, I kind of liked that idea there. And like it definitely shakes up the story a bit. Yeah. Also, a fun fact I learned was the actress that does the singing here comes back in Doctor Who later on, and she plays the character Val in Closing Time. She's the one who thought Craig and the 11th Doctor were a gay couple.
Oh my god, that's funny.
That's the same actress. It's the one who was singing here.
That's hilarious.
She also appeared in a 5th Doctor story as a different character as well, I think.
Huh. Okay, so she's a bit of a series veteran.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of liked the Gunfighters.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't expecting to, because I mentioned that I heard it was like the most hated Doctor Who's episode ever, possibly. It's a contender for that.
Wow.
But I think out of season 3, I think it might be my favorite in season 3, although that's because I don't think there's a lot of good stories in season 3.
Yeah.
But
I think between Galaxy 4 later.
Galaxy 4 and Gunfighters, I think, are my 2 favorite of this season so far.
Mm-hmm. I actually thought the Gunfighters was like actually surprisingly good. Yeah, I didn't have any expectations going in, so I didn't even realize it was going to be the Wild West set in America. That's kind of fun. Steven always wanting to be a cowboy was shocking to me, but sure. There's a lot of silly little things that go on here, and a lot of questionable things. I wouldn't say it's like a really good episode, but I did have fun with it, and I just wish it kind of had a better starting premise, because it's ridiculous that we're here because now the Doctor needs to find a dentist. Well, gee, Doctor, whose fault is that?
Yep. They do kind of work it into the episode well, though, I think.
They do, actually. It's a funny thing.
He had to go to Doc Holliday, and Doc Holliday's a dentist, and then he's like hearing somebody threatening him in the background, so he tricks him into playing the role of Doc Holliday. I did also like the episode title for the first one is called A Holiday for the Doctor, which I just found clever.
That is clever.
I will say, apparently, this is the last story that has individual episode titles as well, though.
Ah, okay.
So from now on, it's just like The Savages Part 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But yeah, I liked the name of episode 1. That was a clever idea there.
Mm-hmm. A couple notes that I have, other than more stuff with the tooth. Genuinely really funny. How the Doctor didn't realize he wasn't going to get anesthetic, and that the fact that someone out there has a Time Lord tooth, that might be pretty big.
Yeah.
We're going to find, like, in, 4 seasons' time, we're just going to have, the Doctor picks up a tooth in America. It's like, I remember this. And it's going to be a big plot point as to why he can't regenerate again or something like that.
Or somebody used it to grow their own doctor.
Oh,
like
God.
how you have Metacrisis Doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Someone
Metacrisis first doctor.
Someone grew a William Hartnell from a tooth. I also note from also very early on, why is Dodo jealous of Steven when they're clearly not meant to be having a good time here? Like, I get it. She was having fun playing the piano, but you guys are being threatened at gunpoint. I don't think you're having a good time. Why are you jealous of the situation?
Yeah, I don't know. I think she's just continuing to be a weirdly written character.
Yeah, she really is. I do note with the Doctor recognizing the Clanton brothers and Ringo and like all these others. Like, okay, clearly this is like a historical piece that I don't know the context to. Clearly this is playing into something specific in history that I don't know. So I'm just gonna roll with it.
I found it a bit funny how he recognizes so many people and yet he doesn't know Earp.
Nope.
He doesn't know how to pronounce the name Earp, and like I know I have a vague familiarity with this story because there's a TV show I watched called Winona Earp, which is about like the descendant of the Earps, and it has demons and stuff in it. It's complicated, but like Doc Holliday is immortal in that, so he comes back in the modern day. And
all right.
It's a complicated story, but it's like tied to this. This is a story about the shootout at the OK Corral, which is like a well-known Western story.
Right.
There was like a movie made about this, I think like a decade before this story was made, so
okay.
People knew about it at the time.
Yeah.
But it's not as well-known nowadays.
Yeah, it kind of faded a little bit over the years, but it was well-known then. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have a note. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that might have been why people didn't like it, though, because it's like, we already have a movie about this story, and they probably just liked the movie better.
Maybe.
Apparently this story has like the record for the lowest audience appreciation index, although the audience appreciation index was like changed in like the 70s and 80s, so it's the lowest, but the way that they did it changed over time.
Right.
And it was like a 30 out of 100 was the score for this, which is not good.
No, that isn't.
And yeah, this was Innes Lloyd will go on to use this as an example to show that they should stop doing historicals because nobody liked it. But I thought it was very good, and I don't know why people hated it so much.
Yeah, I gotta be real. I have noted at the very end here, like going over like everything in this episode, I liked it better than the more recent time Doctor Who's gone Old Wild West, A Town Called Mercy in Series 7, because I really don't like that episode. Like, but the Gunfighters, comparatively, I thought was much more fun and interesting. It still kind of dragged on a little bit. I don't think it needed to be a 4-episode serial. I think it could have worked with 3. But
yeah,
while I didn't love it, I did have a good time with this. More than I expected, and more than A Town Called Mercy. Sorry, Stephen Moffat and Matt Smith enjoyers, but I really don't like that story. I skip it on rewatches most times.
I actually just watched that in my rewatch, and yeah, it's kind of weird. Not a big fan.
Yeah. Like, this gave us a Wild West story that didn't have to deal with the aliens or anything, and while it felt tropey, it didn't feel, I guess I want to say, as ham-fisted as A Town Called Mercy does. Because A Town Called Mercy gives Amy a gun, and you had the silly moment with like all the gunfire noises, and anyone who's not in America, put down your guns. But like, this had the funny scenes of the Doctor keeps getting handed a gun, and he keeps like holding it away from him, like, why are you giving this to me? And it was just actually really funny how many times the Doctor gets given a gun, and he just looks disgusted. Despite the start of the first episode of this serial, for some reason, the Doctor noting that he has a favorite gun collection.
Yeah, I had that noted here too. It's like the Doctor has a gun collection for some reason. Just very funny. But yeah, and then throughout the entire story is, no, stop giving me guns.
Yeah.
I love the scene when he was in jail and he like hands it off to Wyatt Earp, and he's like, "Oh yeah, my friend just gave this to me. Can you go talk to him, tell him stop giving me guns?"
It's actually so
Like,
funny.
yeah, I think this one did comedy very well. I think.
I think it did. I really do think it did.
I loved the scene too where Doc Holliday walks off to get food and there's gunshots and it's just, I just ran to an old friend. He lost his appetite.
Yeah, and
Very funny.
And then of course everyone else like, oh, here we go again. He's back. All right, great.
I will say that I think
the tensions were good too. Like the tensions, like it was stressful at how much miscommunication was going on, but it wasn't like this is poorly written. It's like this is constantly tense. We need a break, and then there was a comedy break. It's like, okay.
I think the gunfight at the end is a little late though, because it's so funny how they shoot so many times and they never hit the Earps. Like the Clanton brothers shoot like 50 times and not a single hit lands.
The fact that they're just walking slowly while being shot at, like an action movie.
They're walking and they shoot like 20 times and like they don't hit them at all.
Nope.
And then they duck for cover.
That was kind of bad. I also think the way Ringo went out was kind of poorly done and kind of a little too silly as well.
Yeah. I kind of liked that it was like, you know, how Dodo was involved in that and he had to save her and stuff, but yeah, he just kind of went out very quickly and you weren't really expecting that.
Yeah. Also, the fact that the Doctor's given a parting gift at the end of the wanted poster for Holiday, and he uses it to smack the companions into the TARDIS, and then he tosses it out. He doesn't want that. I'm like, no. Why would you get rid of your little parting gift? That was actually given to you on like good terms, and you're just like, no, I don't want it. Wow.
I feel like a future Doctor would actually keep it.
Yeah.
Just, like,
absolutely.
Put it in TARDIS somewhere because they like having collections of stuff.
Exactly why I was just like, what do you mean you don't want that, Doctor? That's like perfect for your collections.
There is also some more fun facts about the cast of this story.
Yeah.
Some of them are interesting. The role of Wyatt Earp was originally going to go to Donald Sutherland, who you might know as... He's done a lot of movies. Most recently it was Hunger Games. He was the president in those.
Oh.
He's a very popular actor. The role of Johnny Ringo, on the other hand, was going to go to somebody named Patrick Troughton. Maybe you've heard of him.
Oh, gee.
Funnily enough, he was busy at the time, but don't worry, he'll get to have a small role in Doctor Who eventually, I'm sure.
He'll have his chance one day.
And then the other one is that Anthony Jacobs, who plays Doc Holliday, is the father of Matthew Jacobs. And Matthew Jacobs was brought to the set while they were recording this, and that he will go on to become a writer. And he writes the Doctor Who movie released in 1996.
Oh, wow. That's
so there's just
cool.
a lot of little funny little things here of just like important people in Doctor Who that are like tangentially related to this story.
Man, when we're done recording this, I'm literally going to go tweet out the Gunfighters is a very underrated Doctor Who story. And I can't wait for at least one person to be like, actually. No, like, honestly, like, this was really inoffensive. Like, for for how infamous it is and how people talk about it, I was really expecting something far worse, especially with everything you're telling me. Like, I really thought, like, looking back, like, it was going to be, like, it should have been a lot worse for everything we've heard. But, like, this was, especially since it's one of the few surviving stories from this era, like, this was, if it was a loose canon reconstruction, I think I would have really disliked it, actually. I do want to know. I think the fact that we were actually able to see a lot of the story and the full story did help a lot. Because if you had, like, loose canon reconstruction of, like, barely moving images of all the gunfire, I think I would have been tuned out, like, 10 minutes in.
Yeah. I will say that it's also gotten, like, in Doctor Who magazine polls, it used to be at the bottom of the first Doctors, but then over time it has crawled up the rankings a bit. So it's not as hated these days, but it's still not considered to be very good.
Right.
Personally, I think it might be the best of season 3, though, because because season 3 is not good.
It's definitely up there with a lot of what we've had. Unfortunately, the bar's not very high, but it is up there.
Yeah. And I just love the scene of Steven singing. And like he looks at the gun and he's like, oh, yeah, I better start singing more.
I love how angry he is, where it's like, all right, I'm going to re-sing the same song for the 4th time. Like, it was actually really funny how upset he's getting.
Yeah. And also, they included that bit in the Doctor Who escape room that was on the Toymaker Blu-ray, so they had to sing it again, and Peter Purvis, like, almost immediately got it. It was very funny. But then all 3 of them had to sing it in order to pass that, so he had to encourage Maureen O'Brien to sing along, because she didn't really want to.
That's really funny. I need to make sure I go watch that.
Yeah, it's about an hour. I think it's like an hour and 20 minutes long. Cause
that's nothing. That's
how long
short
they
movie.
have.
The short movie. I'll watch that with dinner.
It's in the special features of Disc 2.
Okay.
It was very entertaining. But yeah, I didn't enjoy Celestial Toymaker very much, but I think the Gunfighters is a lot better. I also have to say that like it's just nice to have a story where the Doctor is just there the whole time.
Yeah.
You know? Like, it's a shame that, you know, his health didn't really allow him to do that much towards the end, but having him there for a whole story, it reminds you, like, just how great he is in the role, I think.
Yeah, and he actually got to do a lot in this story as well. What I actually really did like about the Gunfighters, too, I forgot to mention, I like how there's a really good balance of the 3 main characters. They all get to do something and be heavily involved, and none of them... They all also get their moment as the damsel, TM.
Yeah, they kind of do. I did find it funny at the end, though, where the Doctor is very happy to go and try to convince them to change history, even though this is, like, a very infamous gunfight that he's trying to tell them to not do. But, like, you're trying to change history, Doctor. If they don't do the gunfight, it's a major change in history.
He is trying to change history, but I think it's, in this case, well, it's okay. Now that he's over his toothache, they need to change history so they can get out alive.
Yeah, I guess. I did also find it funny how, like, the Doctor says, like, can't you wear inconspicuous clothes like I do? As if he's the one who isn't always weirdly dressed for every occasion that they go into.
Yeah, seriously.
Because he never changes his clothes, whereas everybody else is trying to fit in a bit more.
Honestly, pretty funny. But I love how happy he was to get the hat that he was given.
Yeah, that was funny.
Which, you know, didn't help at all, but still.
It is also especially funny about his comment about outfits, considering, you know, later Doctors.
Yeah.
They definitely don't wear clothes that are inconspicuous.
No, that's for sure. I think that covers also both of these, though. Oh, go ahead.
In the escape room, Peter Purvis also puts on the 4th Doctor's scarf for a little bit, which is just funny to see.
That is fun. That is fun.
Yeah, I definitely recommend watching that for anybody that has the Blu-ray, because it's very entertaining.
It sounds like a really good watch.
They're doing them for, like, all of them, but you will have to buy the Blu-rays for, like, the collection of Classic Who. But, like, they're doing... This is the 1st Doctor one, and then they're doing them for other ones. I think the 7th Doctor one might be out on one of the Blu-rays already.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But I hope they upload them to YouTube at some point or something, because I don't really want to have to buy all those Blu-rays.
That's a lot of Blu-rays.
I feel like they would be very entertaining to watch.
Yeah. Seeing the actors come back to the roles in some way and having a fun time is always entertaining. Or, you know, just enjoying stuff with the IP is always fun.
Yeah. Guess that's all we have to say about these 2, though?
I think so.
So, we can briefly touch on some news that came out within, like, the last day or 2, which is, last day or 2 of when we're recording this, I should say. But we got more details about the Fugitive Doctor Big Finish, the first box set of those.
Yes, that's very exciting.
And I think, personally, the most exciting part for me is that they mentioned that they had a Zoom call with Chris Chibnall, and he told them about, like, clarifications of his idea for the Fugitive Doctor. Mm-hmm. So it's very nice to see that, like, he has some sort of input in there.
Yeah. No, I think that's actually really exciting, because it means it's going to be true to the vision for the character.
Yeah.
Which is good.
They've given out brief synopsises. I know, I forget, like Alice Kriege or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
is also in it, and she's known for being the Borg Queen in Star Trek. But I've never watched Star Trek, so I'm not familiar with her. But she's clearly a pretty big actor.
Right.
They mentioned that the Daleks are going to be in this as well.
Oh.
She also runs into the Baba Yaga in episode 2, which is a random thing to bring in, but okay. And then the third one, they say like the TARDIS falls into like an alternate dimension or something, and she meets another version of herself.
Oh,
seemingly also a Joe Martin doctor, though.
Oh.
Because like on like the image they showed, there's 2 versions of her in there, so I'm assuming that means she's meeting herself, like another Joe Martin doctor, not a different doctor.
Unless it's going to be like the Massacre, and it's some other character played by Joe Martin, and it's not at all related to the Doctor.
Yeah, she's wearing the same clothes though, so I'm assuming it's probably just the self, like herself. And this is only the first of 2 box sets because they're doing a second box set, and we don't know any details about the second one.
I'm very curious.
This one comes out in January.
Okay, that's not too far. It's a ways away, but it's not too far. I am really curious what her encountering the Daleks is going to be like, because, I mean, timeline-wise, that's fascinating, because we definitely don't have the Daleks knowing about any doctors before Hartnell, so I'm very curious, like, what this is going to do for, like, the timeline. I mean, obviously, anything Big Finish is very 50-50 on if it's canon or not, but...
I'm kind of wondering if, like, is she going to be in the past from a universe perspective, or is she going to still be in, like, the 13th Doctor universe timeline? Because, like, obviously, like, she's in the post-Time War timeline in what we've seen of her, which, like, technically she shouldn't be able to jump to with how stuff works, but it's like, it might be future Daleks that she's meeting and not past Daleks.
Yeah.
Right? We'll have to see how that goes. It is weird that like none of the 3 synopsises of the stories mention the Daleks in them, but it's just
honestly,
like
that's
the
a good
overview
thing.
They mention Daleks.
That's a
so
good
we don't know
thing.
which one they're in.
Listen, I'm a little tired of stories that Daleks are straight up in the title, or the selling point of the episode. I want to be surprised again when a Dalek shows up. So if the audio stories are doing it, that's fine by me.
Well, I think they use Daleks a lot because I know Nicholas Briggs is the voice of the Daleks, and he's also like one of the leads of Big Finish, I think.
Yeah, which
sort
makes
of.
sense.
So like, obviously they're going to be there a lot because he likes doing voices.
That makes perfect sense. Cybermen too, I presume.
Yeah, I assume so. And then we also have we sort of have news about season 2 of
kind of
15th Doctor's time, in that Archie Panjabi has been cast as a new villain in season 2. I'm not familiar with her, but apparently she was an important character in The Good Wife, is like her biggest role that she's ever done.
Okay.
And also, this has not been officially announced yet, and nor have they made any comment on it, so like we don't know anything about her other than she's apparently playing a villain.
I mean, that's much like when the new companion was seen, talked about everywhere except officially announced. So I trust that the info is true. It's just a matter of, we don't know anything about what that's going to be like. No idea if that's just going to be playing like an alien under a bunch of prosthetics, or the voice of a monster that's made entirely of CG, or like looking exactly like herself playing the role of a god or something. Like there's a lot of ways it could be done that we don't. If all we know is villain, sure, I guess she won't be a Dalek. That's basically all we know.
Yeah, I guess that's really all there is news-wise. Personally, I'm very much looking forward to Big Finish next year. Because we got Fugitive Doctor in January. We have Sacha Dhawan's Master in February.
I forgot about that.
And he's getting 2 box sets as well, but the first one is in January, or the first one's in February. We don't know when the second one is coming out. And then
those are going to be good.
13th Doctor is coming in July, I think, is the first one.
Yeah, I think it's July of next year, yeah. So we still got a long time for that one.
Chris Chibnall, who died in 2022 and came back in 2025.
Yeah, right?
It's all back. Kind of hoping eventually we get crossovers of these 3, but
that would
seemingly that won't. Seemingly we don't know if that's happening soon. But Fugitive Doctor and Saturn One's Master and 13th Doctor, I would like to see like a mixture of them at some point.
Just to get some like unofficial new season 13 that isn't Flux, just something else of them all together would be pretty cool.
It would also just be funny to see the Fugitive Doctor with any Doctor or any Master, really.
Yeah, that's true.
It'd be interesting to see how that works out. Technically, they could even make a Master from before the first Master we've ever seen that would pair with her.
Either that or you get her with Missy, since Missy is like the character with the most audio stories other than River Song.
Yeah.
So if you pair her with Missy, then, you know, the timeline kind of comes together of Missy knowing the Doctor since she was a little girl.
Yep.
As we talked about in an earlier episode. So it comes full circle if that really is the end of the Master's life for that one to have met this Doctor. Yeah.
Yeah. Then also, Fugitive Doctor is also in that Once in Future coda that comes out in November, I think.
Right.
So we've got that as well to look forward to.
Right.
But I guess that's all. I guess that's all for today. So the next episode we'll be watching 2 more stories, which are The Savages and The War Machines. The Savages are it's 4 episodes and they're all missing, so you'll have to watch loose canon reconstructions or get like the audiobook or however people want to do that. But The War Machines is surviving, so that's on Tubi TV and BritBox and PBC iPlayer. That's another 4 episodes.
The War Machines is the last of the surviving episodes for the season, isn't it?
It is also the last of the season as well.
Oh, never mind. It's just the end of the season. Oh, okay.
Yeah. The first Doctor regenerates 2 stories into season 4. So,
gotcha.
Because
okay,
the way that they do the production is they always do the first 2 stories of next season in the same production block. So,
right.
Steven says we're saying goodbye to Steven in The Savages. We say goodbye to Dodo in The War Machines, and then the 4th Doctor is next season. And we'll meet Ben and Polly, who I don't know much about other than that they were in Twice One Time. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Twice One Time. They were in that for like 2 minutes,
if that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were not in it for long, and we meet them in The War Machines then?
Yes, they show up in The War Machines.
Okay. Oh, boy. That's going to be interesting.
I don't know how long they're actually on the TARDIS either, because I know like the second Doctor has, Jamie McCrimmon comes in like 2 episodes into his timeline. So I don't know how long Ben and Polly are there. Probably not super long.
Probably not, but that's been the trend starting this season, so it's hardly surprising.
Yeah.
All right.
And I guess we should also just mention that if you would like to join us in our Discord, we have a Patreon. So for just $1 a month, you can get into our Discord where we'll encourage discussions between episodes and about what we're watching, and you also get early access to these episodes. And then for $5 a month, you can watch live as we record, and there'll be a live text chat that will chat with you, where you can tell us about why the Gunfighters is actually bad and people are correct to hate it. Or why the Celestial Toymaker is good.
I love how we do that every single time. We're like, if you want to tell us, we are completely wrong. We do that every time. It's always funny to me.
Yeah. But yeah, just as a reminder, make sure to watch The Savages and The War Machines for our next episode. You can find Savages you have to find around. The War Machines you can find on BBC iPlayer or Tubi TV. And yeah, if you join us on Patreon for $1 a month, you can gain access to our Discord and early access to episodes. I've been Joy. You can find me on social media at JoyContent.
And I've been Triss. You can find me on social media at ToonTriss.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.